So you've done 3 movies together, by my count. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's right.
But you were the producer on the first 2, and the writer.
Writer, producer, star of the first 2, and this is the first time in the director's
She didn't have enough
chair.
to do, so she wanted to add one more hyphenate to the mix.
Why direct?
Why direct? Well, it was somewhat against my will. We were actually interviewing directors, and a lot of people kept doubling back to me and said, particularly Jay Casson, who ended up being one of our producing partners on this, he kept saying, not to diminish my enthusiasm, but why aren't you directing this? And I was like, well, because you're going to direct it, and I'm not qualified. And anyway, he took me to task on that. And a lot of people just felt like it was my story and I should tell it, and I knew how to tell it. And I think that because we surrounded ourselves with an incredible team, that was probably the only circumstances under which I would take it on, because it was so much, and it was pretty exciting. I mean, I feel like I've been a reluctant writer, I've been a reluctant filmmaker, and at the same time, I obviously have the bug because I keep doing it, and each.
Well, you're not alone. I mean, I keep picking up on this. You know, that actors who have so little control over their world and the vagaries of it. I mean, not everyone does as well as this man here.
Well, the funny thing about it is, it's
by the way.
Yes,
it's the world of independent film has shifted so significantly in the last 5 or 6 years, in that there are so many more venues, there's so many more paths to distribution, paths to getting your film in front of people, and you can make a legitimate film for $5,000 that looks great, and then you can shoot it on a flip, you can shoot it on an iPhone, you can shoot it on whatever.
You can be a complete rank amateur and put it up
and it's
on
still
a blog.
it's in HD. It's got a lot of production values. Eddie Burns, who worked on our film.
He just made a movie for $9,000.
He distributes his movies on iTunes.
Tribeca, I know.
And he's sticking to it,
Incredible,
apparently.
I know.
And you know what? And you can keep doing that. And it's
at the same time,
it doesn't diminish any of the other ways.
But you have, let's start with this movie. You have a real cast, extraordinary cast.
Wonderful cast.
Kristen Wiig is going to be a bigger star.
By Monday,
it's going to open very well.
Very exciting.
And you were very funny.
Thank you.
In it.
It's such a great film.
She,
In fact, half of our cast is in that film. Maya Rudolph as well, and Chris O'Dowd, the great Irish actor.
But this is being done at a bigger level than what you're talking
about.
Yes,
and I wish I had that chip of being able to write something that takes place on a country lane, you know, in 24 hours time. But for whatever reason, what I write happens to be Manhattan stories with 80 locations, and you know, and in this case, children and babies and toddlers, and you know, I don't seem to be able to write stories you can shoot for a small budget. Even though
this is a little bit personal in the sense that you are a childless couple, correct?
We're a childless couple, and all of our friends have we're child-free. That's right, not childless. We have a dog that is like a daughter. But anyway, no, all of our friends have really all become parents. All of our close friends, most of them, in the past few years, 4 or 5 years, I would say. And it's definitely been an interesting thing to observe, the changes in them, the shifts in their relationships, the shifts in our friendship, how hard it is to see them, how precious it is when we do, also feeling a bit out of sync with our peer group. And you're already out of sync anyway because you're crazy actors and traveling, you know, all over. And
the big thing about it is we're telling the story not from a place of judgment either. There's no judgment ascribed to it. It's simply about an honest sort of appraisal of how your life changes and how your life shifts, and what are the sacrifices, and what are the things that people either think about or don't think about,
and struggle with, or you know, experience.
And just to be honest about it, and instead of glossing it over with the mommy brush of everything's
amazing,
you know, rainbows and sunshine, when in fact sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes people aren't cut out for it, and there's that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just a thing. And
I think the heart of the stories we sort of look at this through the lens of 3 different couples who have a very different experience. And
you're not playing a couple.
We are not a couple. Johnny and Kristen are paired in this film, and I play a character who, with Adam Scott, we're the last childless singles in our group, and we've sort of observed our friends, John and Kristen, played by John and Kristen, and Chris O'Dowd and Maya Rudolph, become parents, and how it's changed them, and how it's changed our friendships.
Varying degrees of success.
Yeah, and their romances, and we sort of look at a particularly bad moment from them and think, you know, there must be a better way to do this, and not forsake incredible romance, and we devised this plan to have a child together as platonic friends and sort of seek out very romantic relationships on our off time. And you know, best laid plans don't always work out. So
now that you've worked with all these children, did you channel your inner W.C. Fields on this?
It's listen.
We got incredibly lucky, actually.
Yeah,
to be
we
fair.
have some amazing. We do have some amazing performances from very small toddlers in this production.
And
a couple of whom we wanted to kidnap because they were so adorable. But
the various, you know, the vagaries of independent film production means you don't have a lot of time.
right.
You don't have a lot of takes. So you kind of have to get what you get. And when you throw children into that mix, or dogs, or anything that you can't necessarily control, they define the day. And we were tremendously fortunate to get the
We had a few
performances
rough days, but we did get
all
lucky.
things considered, having worked with on Mad Men quite a lot of young child actors, I know how south it can go, how fast.
So you did
And how humbling it is. I mean, because you know, if a baby is crying, or if a 2.5-year-old says like, "Mommy, I want to go home," you're like, "Well, yes, you should, of course, get to go home. This is ridiculous," you know.
It's hard to say. You can't. You signed a contract.
No, I'm sorry. You need to perform for us. But I mean, it's humbling because you basically just have to wait until they're excited and willing to do what you want them to.
So have you completed